Hi, I'm Tom at Just One Pack, and this is AC on, the short Alpha Clash podcast, where I talk all things Alpha Clash on my way to work. So, having said that, I'm actually going to talk about Magic for a bit. Don't worry, I will segue that into talking about Alpha Clash, but I want to start with Magic. So, Magic just held MagicCon in Las Vegas, I think, just about a week back. And one of the things they discussed there, or showed there, was the roadmap ahead. Excuse me. So the roadmap ahead for Magic is turning out to be 50% non-Magic. 50% non-Magic, meaning that half of the decks coming out the next year or two is going to be what they call Universes Beyond. Now, something set in another universe than Magic's own universe. Universes Beyond. So, there's a lot of talk in the Magic community about what people feel about this. I'm feeling neither one way or the other, because I'm not really playing much Magic anymore. But I do think that it will have an effect on the TCG market as a whole, and that is the point I want to sort of lean to. So, Magic is a very, very big player, and I think they need to do something to make themselves relevant. And one of the things that they can do is this Universes Beyond thing. I'm quite certain that every time they sold a card like that, or a product like that, whether that would be Assassin's Creed or Lord of the Rings or whatever else Universes Beyond they made, they have had quite a lot of success sales-wise. That makes perfect sense, because you are presenting something that others not in your own sort of, not in the know about your own story, sort of can relate to, and they might want to try it out. So that makes perfect sense. What gets people upset, again, is that instead of it being adjacent products to the main line of products, it is now going to be the main line of products. And what I think that will mean is that shift for really engaged players, which there still is quite a few of, they will feel pushed out of Magic. So players that have been playing Magic maybe for a long time, invested in some of the lore, invest in some of the story, and play for that reason, they will be pushed out a little bit by this, or maybe a lot, depending on their stance. They may already have been feeling a little pushed out. For making that point, I'm going to go back quite a few years now. When I was playing Magic, at some point, the sheer amount of new product coming out made it impossible for me as a casual on the side sort of thing to keep up with whether or not that was anything interesting. Just whether or not it was interesting. I'm not even talking about financial value, which that would be bonkers. So, and actually, the daily booster pack was just at the end of that on this channel. But the point here is that that pushed a lot of people away, including me, that there was so much product that we couldn't keep up. We couldn't find out what was the interesting part for us. The whole arrogant stick around, well, maybe this product is not for you. Well, I don't know if it's for me. So you're sort of pushing me out. I need to invest a lot more time and money to keep up, quote unquote. And that pushed some people away, I believe, and that made room in the TCG community for new card games. The most predominant of those would be something like Flesh and Blood, which probably would have had a really hard time if Magic did not mismanage. Now, I know that Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Is also big players in this market, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Might have some of the same issues. I don't know. I don't play Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon is very different. It's a more collective thing than a player thing. I know there's a huge amount of players not discarding that in any way, but Magic is, I think, or at least was, predominantly player-based. So when you start pushing out that much product and people felt like they need to follow up and keep up, you sort of pushed people away that couldn't or wouldn't do that. And that made room for the TCGs. What I think will happen now with Universes Beyond is that people who are sort of clinging on to because of the story, having characters you could relate to, being able to sort of smile when goblins turned up because you know goblins from whatever background story, and the same with dragons or bears or some of the planeswalker characters. Having that background, that lore to build on, that is now being diluted by there being, I think one of the set was Spider-Man. Now my dragon has to contend with Spider-Man, and so it led back to the downfall of Dice Masters, which was, just as Magic, to me a very solid game, but I am not going to play my superheroes and lose to your fake wrestler. Fake meaning that they're show fighting. That would make no sense at all, and it's sort of weird, a weird setup. So I think you would have some of the same issues with Universes Beyond, where players will feel themselves being entrenched players or historically loyal players will feel they're being pushed out because the lore and the history of the game that they grew up with is going away. Now that leaves a room again for other TCGs that are more heavy on the story to get in there and grab them. That could be something like Flesh and Blood, but that could also be something like Alpha Clash. If you see that pop up in your game store or on the website you're shopping and going, what is this? Because you are exploring the field for a new game to invest in, both mentally and financially. So I think even that being a negative for Magic, it's a positive for the TCG community as a whole, and Alpha Clash is part of that. The other thing about Universes Beyond is that having something you can recognize, this exact same thing that drew more entrenched players or more dedicated story players out, will be the same thing that will get people drawn in by whatever set they're in. So if you're a Spider-Man fan or a a Marvel fan, or whatever else IP they come up with, if you're a fan of that and you see that product on the shelves, you might buy it. I think there was a Final Fantasy starter kit as well. My son really wanted that. We ended up buying Bloomberg because fighting squeaky toys were fun to me. But that's not the point I was making. But the IP is interesting regardless of the game behind it. So that might draw people in to play TCGs who has never played TCGs before. And that's, if I'm being honest, the concept of TCGs is both the gameplay of a TCG is quite a bit different than gameplay of any other game. That I'm sometimes describing them as a strategic card game, and that I haven't found something quite like that. The other thing is the whole premise, the business model around TCGs, where you or me as a consumer is willing to buy a box of game pieces for something like 100 quid and not getting anything useful out of it. I can't necessarily play with that. I don't have a full game when I've opened a whole box of posters, meaning I paid more than a reasonable sized board game. I don't have enough play pieces. I might, but I can't be sure. That whole idea and model of doing things is really, really strange. And I haven't even touched on the collectible side of things, which is a cornerstone for that. So, having a gateway into that for a player that weren't playing TCGs before is absolutely vital for the community as a whole. And Magic is now picking up the mantle. So what I think will happen is that the players they lose because of the Universes Beyond, we're talking short term, the players they lose because of Universes Beyond will be picked up by people interested in that IP, in the new Universes Beyond IP, which is fine for the TCG community as a whole. And on short term, I think that will be a plus. I think the influx of new players will be bigger than the drop-off of old players. So, as a whole, at least on short term, I think that will be a positive for Magic. But these people come in, and we know that you usually, I think there's a rule of thumb saying that you have a hobby for 2 to 3 years. Now, if you get into TCGs because you like a certain TV series or a cartoon hero, something like that, whatever it be, Spider-Man being the example, then you might get into this buying into the Spider-Man set. And once you realize that you can't get any more Spider-Man because that IP is now replaced with, I don't know, Harry Potter or some other universe that you might or might not be as interested in. Now you can't expand your deck within theme. Now I think three things will happen. Some people would put it away, think that was fun, and keep it as sort of a board game that they pay way too much for. I think others will just accept the Magic setup that is a thing now. That yes, you have Spider-Man cards, but you can also have a tome of something or a Draken with your Spider-Man, because that's a thing. And then start looking more at the mechanic side of it. And still others might have found TCGs interesting, but really not finding it fun that their IP or their interest has gone away, and being thoroughly uninterested in whatever IP comes up. Those players might be looking around for another TCG, and there will therefore, I think, and I hope, be a spillover into other TCGs. Now, my hope is that they will make a few superhero adjacent set, getting people that are interested in superheroes into trading card games, because I can only think of one superhero, supervillain-ish trading card game out there, and that's Alpha Clash. And Alpha Clash will be able to, at least in my opinion, if we keep up the storytelling, the game adjacent products like the comic books, the novels, and maybe even the board game, and whatever else comes out of the brilliant minds, that might be able to drive them closer and closer to getting sucked into that world, like all of us are, and enjoy that, and simply switch out their Batman deck or their Spider-Man deck for an Alpha Clash deck. They might find it interesting to follow some of the future characters of Alpha Clash. Maybe there's a room actually for a Spider-Man-ish character. Anywho, that might be a gateway for them to enter TCGs, and from entering TCGs, entering into the world of Alpha Clash, because it provides the same richness in story and game depth as they would have found in Magic. Anyway, that was my rant of the day, so to speak. I'm really looking forward to Genesis Returns, which comes out just in a few days from recording this, and yeah, that's actually it. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.